In the Bible, in Leviticus, there's a story, and the story is of a tribe that feels overburdened with sin, and its solution, I guess one solution would be to up its moral game, become better, and commit to higher moral standards and so on. But that is not the approach that this tribe takes. What the tribe does is it performs a magic ritual of expiation wherein it casts all of its sins into a goat. Bad goat, sinner goat. And then what the tribe does is it drives the goat out into the desert. And there the goat will die of heat and exhaustion. And thus the sins of the tribe are vanished, are gone. They no longer feel the burden of sin. Now, this gives immediate relief, of course, at the expense of long-term moral progress. Because if you believe that accumulated sins can be cast into some other entity, that entity can then be attacked and driven out and expiated from society, and then your sin is also purged from yourself, from history, from your conscience, and so on. Well, it's hard to quit an addiction to immorality if you believe you have an easy and perfect cure for the resulting bad conscience, which is to scapegoat, right? That's where scapegoat comes from, and probably also why the goat is associated with the devil. So, if you want to understand the modern world, you have to understand one thing, that white people are now the scapegoats of the moral conscience of the planet. That the predation, the rape, the colonialism, the war, the subjugation, the tyranny that has characterized almost all of human history is now focused on white people. And there is this belief that if you take the accumulated sins of your ancestors and you pour them into some external being, in this case, white people, and then you attack or try and drive them away or try to humiliate them and so on, that somehow you are solving the problem of immorality. They're just solving the problem of sin. And of course, it's false. It is a false belief. It is an incredibly destructive belief. And generally, you see the goat can't fight back. You see, they don't try. There's no scape tiger, right? There's no scape elephant. There's no scape shark. There's only a scapegoat. Why? Because goats are relatively harmless, can't fight back, and therefore can be the poison container. Like if you are full of a bad conscience, then you wish to rid yourself of that bad feeling. And this, of course, is the basic plot line of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. If you have done something immoral, then you wish to rid yourself of the bad conscience of your immoral action. And you have really three choices. You can kill yourself, which will certainly rid you of that bad feeling, but is certainly not recommended. Or you can commit to admitting fault. You can commit to reparations. You can commit to doing better. You can use really the pain of a bad conscience to guide you to a better life, which is sort of like you put your hand in the... I remember this as a kid. I saw a metal knife sitting next to the gas burner we used to cook, and I grabbed it. Only once. When I was in Ireland, somebody told me about nettles, a little poisonous plant, and I must wonder what that's like. I pinched the nettles. Only once, right? The purpose of pain is to prevent recurrence. The purpose of pain is not history. The purpose of pain is the future. If you have psychological pain about the past, it's not about the past. It's trying to teach you to avoid the same situation in the future, while, of course, people who harm you, people who want to exploit you, wish you to think that your psychological pain is only about the past so that they can continue to exploit you because you are undefended, focusing only on the past. No, your past pain is to prevent you from being exploited and harmed and abused. Again, that's the purpose of pain. When I grabbed the nettle and it hurt for an hour, stung for an hour, the purpose of the pain was not to prevent me from touching the nettle in the past, because that's impossible. You can't go back in time. The purpose of the pain was to prevent me from touching a nettle in the future. So when it comes to the world as a whole, there is an example of the white race, which has had its faults for sure, but has done some incredibly wonderful things as well, like spending massive amounts of blood and treasure to end the slave trade worldwide by creating the idea of universal rights, not in-group preferences, not tribal rights, not I believe what you believe, therefore we are brothers and everyone else is our enemy. It was fairly unique in coming up with the idea of universal rights. In modern science, 97% of all scientific advancements between 800 BC and 1950 AD came from Europe and North America, not including Mexico. It was largely, almost exclusively, the modern world is a white male phenomenon, and that has prevented the deaths or allowed the continued life of literally billions of people. So in a rational universe, people would say, yeah, white people sure did some bad things, but man, when you weigh the minuses and you weigh the pluses, medicine, science, the free market, human rights, and so on, largely Greco-Roman and Christian perspectives. And yeah, have done some pretty great stuff around the world, and billions of people owe their lives to Western science and medicine and markets and agricultural innovations and you name it, right? So great stuff. So what people could do around the world is they could say, boy, that the whites did sort of like an icebreaker through the frozen ice of an abusive history and present of mankind. Let's trail after them and let's continue to widen that passage. Let's continue to extend freedoms. Let's overleap white people in terms of virtue and commitment to property rights and individual liberties and free speech. And let's go even further than white people did because they really showed us the way. But let's overtake them. Let's be better. Let's be even more moral. Let's be even more virtuous. Let's be even more free. Could do that. It's a theoretical possibility, right? But that's not really what most cultures in the world have decided to do. For reasons, some based on free will and therefore inexplicable to philosophy, and some based on a wide variety of bell curve issues and cultural issues and religious issues that I've talked about before. When something is higher or better, you have the choice because you feel the gap, right? You feel the gap. You feel this humiliation between you and someone who's doing better. I mean, I grew up poor and I saw middle-class families with decent incomes and stable family lives and so on. And I mean, you have a choice about that. When you see something that's better than what you have, you can either attempt to destroy what is better and therefore destroy the gap that you feel between yourself and a better state. You can just destroy the better state or attack or undermine the better state, and that way you hope to ease your unease, but you don't. You may close the gap between you and something better by destroying something that's better, but all that does is provoke in you the guilty conscience of having hated the good for being the good. So when I was young, I remember being a little kid and, somebody told me about the year 2000. I thought, wow, I'll be 34 in the year 2000. I see myself in an office. I see myself with a tie on. I see myself doing something professional. I see myself with a stable income. I see myself with a good family life. I see all of these things. And I, for the most part, achieved them around that time or shortly thereafter. I didn't want to pull down what was better. I wanted to reach up and join it and then go further and extend. So every culture, every ethnicity, every country has that choice. They can look at some of the white achievements and say, wow, that's good, but we can do better. Fantastic. Wouldn't that be wonderful to have this leapfrogging forward into freedom and liberty and the beauty of free speech and property rights and more markets and more charity and wouldn't that be beautiful, more beautiful art? Wouldn't that be wonderful? But that's generally not what's happening. What's happening is that people are trying to pull down white civilization because, for whatever reason, they feel that they cannot match it. In the hurly-burly competition of us mere biped mammals, that is what is going on. And that's why the white race is continually being attacked. Not because it was evil, and there were certainly evil aspects to history, as there was in all races and cultures, but because the achievements cannot be matched, let alone exceeded. And therefore, the statue must be cast down.